All right, everybody, welcome back. Super excited today here with the David Randolph. David is known in our industry as probably one of the leaders, and just kind of guess blazing the trail on short sales, which has been a little crazy lately with everything that's going on in our market. So, David, thank you so much for jumping on.
I'm really excited. By the way,
Cool.
It is the David Randolph because davidrandolph.com was taken by somebody else.
Oh no!
So my IP attorney said, "Hey, aren't you the David Randolph?"
Of course you
And
are.
so, we took that website,
Love it.
thedavidrandolph.com. That's where that came from.
Love it. So, David, we're in a couple of masterminds together, and you're generally regarded as the the go-to guy for short sales. And I want to talk about that and where we're at in the market, and what's going on, and if short sales are even still a thing. But how did you get into short sales? That obviously wasn't where you started. You weren't born as a short sale expert. What were you doing before all of this in real estate?
Well, my background was actually engineering. I was working in the corporate world, okay?
Yeah.
And I had that dream about, more millionaires are made in real estate.
Mhm.
And here I'm stuck in the corporate world. But the problem, David, is that I was climbing the corporate ladder.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I was doing patents and making a lot of money for the
Mm.
company. And
Yeah.
one year I came in for my performance review, and they went through all the stuff I did, and then you get your raise at the end, right? And so it's like, good, what's my raise? And they said, well, your raise is zero. You don't get a raise. And I mean, what do you mean by zero?
Yeah.
Zero what? 0.00. And they said, yeah, you're already making as much as the president of our small company. You're already making as much as him now, and nobody can get paid more than the president. So I said, well, give him a raise. Give
us both a raise.
Anyway, so from there, I found out I made it to the top of the corporate ladder, and there's nothing there. There's nothing at the top.
Oh,
So I climbed back down the corporate ladder, got on the real estate ladder, went to some real estate conferences, learned about that, back in 2009, and fell in love with real estate. With it. And so then I've been doing real estate for 15 years. I got several businesses if you want me to go through those.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Well, I started out with the thought that if I could learn how to rehab a house, then I could do anything in between. I could do wholesaling, I could do rentals, if I had that skill. So that was one thing I learned how to do. And then the other one was, how do you buy houses? That's the other thing you need to know. And so it's like, well, this is 2009. There's a tidal wave of foreclosures everywhere. And my wife and I, we wanted to find some way to help families out. You can buy off the MLS, but that's kind of cold and boring.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we wanted to help families out of a crisis at the time. So we started doing that as a short sale method. Well, what happened was, we're rehabbing houses, probably rehabbing 5 to 10 houses a year.
Right.
And one of our claim to fame is that all of our renovated houses have sold in 7 days or less. Now, this is in St. Louis, Missouri, okay? And all the houses that we put on the MLS, $265,000 and less, they sold in 7 days or less at list price or higher for 15 years now. They're drop dead gorgeous. But as we kind of know what the topic is here, that is my way of buying houses, called a short sale. That was my method that I was doing to buy houses. So now this is personally, okay, me, I make $50,000 to $150,000 gross profit. Now I'm trying to be FTC compliant. There's computers and paper, right? But the point is, I'm making a lot on each house, on $250,000 houses by negotiating a short sale. These are not on the MLS. They are not with a real estate agent.
Right.
What I do is I work with the homeowner, and they authorize me to speak with the bank, and I negotiate directly with the bank. So I want to be really clear. I'm an investor, an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
okay, and I'm the buyer and the negotiator. So everything I talk about on this interview is going to be in that relationship as a real estate investor. Well, in that, I kind of grew up into having over $3.5 million. I can say this on FTC because I can log on, and I've got
Yeah.
$3.5 million in cash in my IRAs that I lend out. So I became what's called a hard money lender. So, as you go through real estate and you get, more successful at it, that's one avenue. Okay. I didn't do rentals. Okay. But I did hard money lending. But my
Yeah.
heart's to help new rehabbers. So I
Yeah.
give them the money to buy it, the money to fix it, the money for the points, money for the monthly interest payments. They need no money at all. It's all
Mhm.
on the HUD statement when they sell the house. Then
Yeah.
about 5 years ago, people that know me, big names out there said, "Hey, David, you need to teach other people how to do short sales."
Yeah.
I've been teaching it for 5 years now, and I got students all across the country, and it's just pretty amazing right now. The banks are literally dumping the houses,
Really?
and nobody else knows about it. Kevin is in Pennsylvania. Just last week, he bought his very first short sale. Very first short sale, he bought it for $57,000.
Yeah.
Then he brought in 3 dumpsters. It was kind of a hoarder house, right?
Sure.
3 dumpsters, and he wasn't a rehabber, and so he just listed it on the MLS, and he is under contract for $225,000
Whoa.
cash, no inspections,
That's
no
amazing.
appraisals. His highest offer is 245. The
Mhm.
banks are dumping the houses right
Mhm.
now because of many reasons we can talk about. But
Yeah. Well, let's jump in and do that. Like for people who aren't maybe as familiar, let's talk about what is a short sale. Like first off, like what is a short sale, and then a little bit like how did you even discover that when you wanted to get into real estate that this was going to be a great niche for you?
Well, as far as getting into it, there was no choice in 2009,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Out there.
so it's either buying foreclosure courthouse steps or short sales because there was nothing on the MLS, there was nothing in
Right.
around. But what is a short sale? A lot of people don't know what that is. So I'm going to say a few things that are going to be a little bit strange to people. So if we asked 10 real estate investors, what do you think a short sale is? All 10 of them would probably say, well, it's when the homeowner owes more than what the house is worth. In other words, their loan or their mortgage on that house is larger than what they could sell the house for. And that's what a lot of people would say is a short sale. They
Right.
can't sell it. Well, that's actually, it's dead
Really?
wrong. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Here's the definition of the short sale: you miss one house payment. And here's why: I cannot do a short sale, and you can't either. We can't do a short sale unless the homeowner has missed one payment. You
Right.
can't do one. And so for me, that's my definition. Now, Dave, you're crazy. You're trying to, tell us you're crazy. And okay, yes, but I'll back everything up, and let me back that statement up. And here's why. Okay, there's a company, I said my background's engineering and corporate life, so I'm a data junkie nerd. So there's this company called Black Knight that was bought out by ICE, and they do these data mortgage statistics across the country. They
Right.
did a 30-year study all across America for 30 years, took all the foreclosures in this country, took all the homes that had 40% equity, 40%. They could have snapped their fingers and sold that house, right?
Yeah.
Easily. Instead, 1/3, 30% went to foreclosure anyway. You weren't there, I wasn't there, and your listeners weren't there to help that family out.
Right.
That's my short sale right there, David. That's the short sale. That's the family that needs your help. That's where we can do a short sale. Equity is irrelevant to the situation. Okay. Equity is irrelevant. Now, let me back that up. Okay. What is equity? You can't define it. Okay. If I'm a rehabber and I list my home for sale, I'm going to list it really high because I think it's worth a lot. And a buyer's going to come in and offer less. So there's obviously some difference between the two. So equity is in the eye of the appraiser and the eye of the beholder. So it's a variable number, right? So
Right.
let's not say that they do or they don't have equity. It's irrelevant. It's what does the bank tell you? That's all that matters. So let's do the short sale process and let the bank tell us what there is in it, right? And so that's what a short sale is. And that's basically, how I conduct and how I do my short sales is I let the bank tell me.
So you're talking to a seller, they're behind on at least one payment, and from there you would start that process of going to the bank and trying to negotiate it down. Like, give me a little bit more there on like kind of the TikTok of how that works.
Well, basically, I like to work with families that have a foreclosure date. So, in other words, they're in all states,
Gotcha.
even judicial and non-judicial.
Yeah.
There is a final point in time where they have to post the time, the date and time on the courthouse steps that house will be auctioned off to bring in as much for the mortgage as they can. Missouri's 21 days, Texas is 21, Georgia 30 days,
Mhm.
Florida, and Illinois, there's different number of days. But I like to basically mail a letter to those people that are going to lose their home. So they call me, okay? They call me and they're desperate because they're going to lose their house. And so what I do is find out, what do they want to do? Do they want to keep it or do they want to sell it? If they want to sell it, I say, okay, look, one of the techniques that we can do is I can help you stop that foreclosure date,
Okay.
and then we can go to the bank and then we can do a short sale process, okay? And then if they agree to that and they say that's great, that's wonderful for lots of many reasons, then I am going to have an authorization form signed by the seller that I give to the bank that allows me now to take over the entire conversation. The bank almost literally never talks to the homeowner again,
Mhm.
okay? Because you're now doing all the paperwork, all the processing, everything directly with the bank. And
Right.
so you just go through a long process from there, being authorized by the homeowner.
Mhm. Nice. And so is condition like a big driver for you, or that doesn't matter? Because I always
Well,
thought that it was, yeah, the worse the condition, of course, the better.
Well, I think in real estate in general, that's a generally true statement from the
Okay.
perspective that you can bring the most value to the house. If a house is
Mhm.
in really bad shape, the homeowner either doesn't have the technical knowledge to do something or the financial ability to do something. So in general, that's a true statement. But in short sales, it turns out not to exactly be that case. Give you
Okay.
an example. Back in 2015, after doing short sales for 5 years and thinking the same thing, let's do the hoarder house and the bad
Yeah.
houses. I said, you know what? I'm getting pretty good at these. I'm just going to try a short sale on a house that's only like 6 years old. Okay. Granite countertops, wood floors. I'm just going to go ahead and try and do a short
Yeah.
sale on that and just kind of waste my time and see what the banks say and
Mhm.
what comes out of it. And so I ended up buying that house for $110,000. Now, it had an unfinished basement. So I felt really bad about that because as a rehabber, we got to do something.
Gotta do it all.
Okay. So I put about 20 grand into the basement, just made a big giant room under there and stuff. So I had like basically 130,000 in it. Well, I put that house up on the market and sold it for $210,000. Okay, on public records, I had 130 in it, sold it for 210. Not bad for a house that was was 6 years old. So
Yeah.
now I don't distinguish between them. If the homeowner wants to do a short sale and doesn't want to keep the house, then let's take it to the bank and see what the bank tells
Mhm.
us that they're willing to accept
Yeah.
on it. And there's a lot of reasons why the bank accepts a lot less than what you might think. Okay,
Really?
there's a lot of reasons.
So these are people, they're basically walking away, but they want to have you come in or your team, and is it, well, it keeps the foreclosure from happening and maybe saves their credit? Like, what are the benefits that this process can offer the
Yeah.
seller?
The number one, and this is what I'll go through about five of them, but
Mhm.
I'll tell you the number one reason that the homeowner will agree to let you do a short sale with them is to stay in the house longer. It's the number
Okay.
one reason. It's not that the foreclosure on their record is 300 points for 7 years and a short sale is only 50 points for 1 year. That's not the reason. It's
Really?
not the reason that you can get the bank to pay them some money,
Mhm.
okay, on it. It's not any of those reasons. The main reason is that they don't have to move out next Tuesday and they can stay in the house longer. They get to save their money up, okay, because they're not making their house payment during that time
Right.
with it. And so there's that procrastination factor, which is what got
Sure.
them into their mess to begin with,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay, they don't have a place to go to yet, and so a lot of things can help them get their family straight and everything ready. So there's a lot of reasons. Bankruptcy costs them money, still
Yeah.
hits your credit pretty bad on that. So there's no good option, but to do the short sale in a lot of those cases.
Mhm. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of investors that do that, and I just detest it. But they will open bankruptcy to try to forego the or stall the foreclosure action.
Yeah, that's terrible because it costs the homeowner money. I've
Yeah.
got multiple ways that I can stop the foreclosure date, multiple ways to stop it without telling the homeowner you got to spend $1,200 and
Yeah.
file bankruptcy, right? And so now we'll make a little side point though. It's absolutely irrelevant to you as the investor. We can do a short sale the very next day. If they're in bankruptcy, we can still do a short sale.
Hmm.
So don't let that stop you from
Yeah.
proceeding along with doing the short sale.
Nice. Now, David, a lot of people say they want to get involved in the process as early as possible, like the minute the list pendants is filed, or even some people go as far as just pulling 30, 60, 90 reports where they just can tell someone's starting to get behind on their mortgage payment. But you like to be really close. The closer to the date, I guess maybe the better, or at least once there's a date established.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, getting there early and talking to them because there is a know, like, and trust that you
Sure.
can build up.
Yeah.
But they are absolutely going to procrastinate until that last 30 days or 21 days. Okay.
Mhm.
And so now maybe that, you send them that letter. Okay. Because I teach you just to mail them a letter from the public posting. They've seen your name now before. So that certainly can help to do that. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not going to actually happen until they really see that date and time when they have to be out of the house
Yeah.
with it. And so that's where the most motivated. I mean, it's very, very easy. No, I'll say easy, but as long as you can explain to them what the process is happening, that it's really true.
Right.
Sometimes this little trick, I actually take the newspaper where the foreclosure posting is and take a picture of it and just text them and say, look, see, you're somebody now. You're in the news. Here's your name. You're Steve Martin, right? I'm somebody's
Yeah.
phone book, and so they're like, holy cow, it must be real. Okay, so what do we do? What do we do, David? I'm not ready to move. I don't want the house. We're divorced,
Right.
or the house has a leaky roof, or I don't really want the house, but I can't pay the loan,
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
That's interesting. That's one thing that I talk to our team about for our clients who are working with people in foreclosure and short sales and bankruptcy and all those things. Is there typically people who kind of have that ostrich thing, right? They put their head in the sand,
Mhm.
and I get it. Foreclosures are bad, but every single person who's been in foreclosure has been contacted by refinance people and bank people and realtors and investors and guys like you, and like they've been contacted a lot, but still they end up going to foreclosure because they just have that avoidance in their personality.
Yeah, no, and there's a secret thing you can tell them
Yeah.
so that they don't react to you like they react to everyone else you just talked about.
Hmm.
There's a special thing you can say to them that sets you apart,
Yeah.
from them and stuff like that. But yeah, it's you have to have a heart to help
Sure.
them. Some of the best
Mhm.
students that I have across.
Say it. Hmm. Feel like we should have some Jeopardy music for every time this happens. Do 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 do.
Seems like that's probably.
And we lost him.
He was a decent bit.
Sure.
Okay, we lost you for a minute.
Yeah, what happened? I don't know.
I don't know. We were good. It froze. You froze up, and then it bumped you out for a second.
Okay, goodness gracious. Yeah, must be the stock market crashing and everybody on the internet,
I know.
using.
I've got about 300 and something thousand. I needed to cash out a couple weeks ago, and now I'm
Uh-oh.
now I'm just. Do I just wait and wait for it to rebound? Hopefully, it does.
Yeah, it's pretty bad on there. So a lot of people are probably on the internet using up the bandwidth, I guess.
Yeah, selling. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, you kind of froze up right after that last question, which I'm not even sure what it was, but we were talking about people with the keeping their head in the sand, being kind of that ostrich syndrome.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, and I was just talking about, there certain things that you can say to them, to
Mhm.
set you apart from other people that mail all those letters.
Yeah.
And the best people that do this are those who have had a
Right.
foreclosure in the past, or even a divorce or health issues,
Yeah.
because it's your heart that they're going to see.
Sure.
Now, of course, after that, you got to know what you're doing,
Right.
right? Obviously, but some of the best people are
Yeah.
those that have been through a situation
Mhm.
themselves.
Yeah, I think that's important. And when we were running a large wholesale company across the country, with our acquisitions and dispositions people, I would explain that like you got to really care, you got to be interested, right? How is it that we're going to be able to help these people? Because these people, they're 100% losing sleep at night, right? I mean, it's a terrible situation. So, on this, kind of going in that direction where you and your students are trying to, build new leads and help other people. What are some of the biggest obstacles that they come across other than that, other than people just being afraid to answer the phone?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, misconceptions on a lot of things. One, you don't need your own cash to do
Yeah.
a short sale. You always turn a cash as is offer into the bank, but
Right.
as you know, as a title company, easy REI closings, you can always come to closing with a loan as
Sure.
long as you don't change the terms of the contract. So that's
Right.
one, thing there. I think another one is that, well, just talking about title companies while we're here, is a short sale is a different animal. Do not go to your traditional title company to
Yeah.
try to do a short sale, because
Right.
they'll mess it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Either they'll step in when they don't even need to be stepping in and trying to do something with the bank. Okay. Whereas you've already generated the approval letter. You just need the title company to execute the terms on the approval letter. Okay. And stuff. And so that's very important to make sure, because there's FHA, Fannie Mae, some of them have deed restrictions. You need a title company that understands how to record that, how to execute it, how to wire the money, and what documents go to the bank after it's over. Completely different.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one that people kind of need to be aware of. The other one, too, I think, is that the bank is going to come out and determine the value of the property. You don't need to worry so much what the value of the property is on it and stuff, because they're going to actually send out an appraiser. Like when I bought this house for $29,600 and sold it for $275, and that's public records. The bank told me I had to pay $29,600. It was in writing. Okay. And so the bank's going to come out and they're going to determine what the value is, not you. They send out their own. They're a 600-pound gorilla. They're going to send out their own BPO agent, broker price opinion, or a full licensed appraiser,
Yeah.
maybe even both. And so they're going to tell you. So a lot of people get all worried about that and stuff. Don't worry about that. Just do the steps and process. And there's a lot we haven't talked about the steps and
Sure.
process.
Yeah.
But you just do the steps and everything works out. Just fine. You help the family out. And stuff like that. So it's always.
How often does it happen where you contract and you make the offer and the bank comes out and their appraiser wants too much money or too high, and then what happens then?
Well, all the time, I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that means you offered too much.
Okay.
So I teach people how to dispute. This is an official process that the banks have. Some of them even have their own form for it. You can actually dispute the valuation from the
Really?
bank. So I hope it happens.
Yeah.
Okay? Because if it doesn't, then I offered too much, and then I
Yeah.
gotta go. Now what do I do? I offered too much.
You can't dispute your own price, right? Your
Yeah,
own
well,
offer.
actually, there is a way, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah.
I've got this 2-hour workshop that I do,
We're gonna
and I
talk
talk
about
about it in that. But
Mhm.
but that's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough position, but there is one way to do it.
Cool. So when I started investing, it was 2002, and it was the early days back when everything was just really starting to blow up. And I tell people, as we got into 2004, 5, and 6, and all the gurus and coaches, everybody was teaching pre-foreclosures, which was fantastic, right? Buy it sub 2, do all these things, all of the different strategies. But none of us, not a single one of us at the time, did it ever dawn on us that, oh my gosh, the bank is taking all these properties back, and then we ended up where we were in 2009. So, clearly when I started, short sales were, it was, I would say easier maybe, or just maybe more common, more prevalent. And after the last couple of years where the market has been so hot, I think people have sort of forgotten about the whole short sale thing. So where do you see short sales in today's market and maybe in the, over the next couple of years?
Well, you know what? The banks are literally desperate, and here's why. We recently had this administration change, and when you change presidents, you get to rewrite history. And so the official delinquency loan count was 2.2 million. And
Yeah.
after the presidential election and that came out, it was finally revealed that it was 6 million. It's
Oh
actually
my.
7 million delinquent loans, but at least this president got closer to it. So the bank has 6 million delinquent loans that
Yeah.
are sitting there. And so just because you don't know about them doesn't mean they're not there. Now, what was happening was that there was a lot of regulations that kept the banks from doing the foreclosure process. So that's why you say that there wasn't many there. They existed, but the
Mhm.
foreclosure side wasn't happening. Okay. So me and my students, we've been doing short sales left and right because of that quantity. But now what's changed is that, in 2025, the CFPB was shut down. Okay. The
Right.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And that was the body, the governing body that was stopping the banks from foreclosing. So
Mhm.
now, with that institution shut down, the enforcement of that shut down, banks are now able to foreclose, quote, at will going forward. Okay. So I think you're going to see it in the
Mhm.
news much more going forward, but it's not going to change the fact that that 6 million are still there. And my students are picking one here, picking them off left and right.
Yeah.
That's still happening. It's just
Mhm.
now in the media, you're going to see that,
Yeah.
more. Okay, because they're now able. There's not as much protections for the homeowner anymore.
Right.
Plus, we're like over 700 days on days delinquent. It
Wow.
was only like 770 back in 2009. We're like very close to that number. You can't have investors allowing mortgages not to be paid for an average of 700 days. 90 days. That's normally, if you miss 3 months of payments, then you got a foreclosure process starting,
Right.
and that's not been happening. So you got this huge backlog. Okay, and then you have the new, it's interesting, the 30 and 60-day lates
Mhm.
are rising. Okay, rising. And I'll tell you why. You heard of this? Now I don't have a PhD in economics, so I'm going to give
Mhm.
you my version of it. But it's called inflation. Okay,
Sure.
and what happens in inflation? You need to pay for gas and for food, and guess what? Your house payment doesn't get made. So the 30, 60 days late payments, okay, recent ones are increasing. Plus the backlog of millions of COVID type CARES Act moratorium, had
Right.
18-month moratorium of those people still sitting there that the banks have got to get them, off of their books. And I think
Right.
you're going to see it publicly, going forward.
Well, I think that was affecting a lot of the reporting, right? Was where they were doing loan modifications. Gosh, I couldn't believe it's been so long since we had heard loan mods too. That was a 2010 thing. But yeah, during COVID, they were taking these payments, putting them to the back because what's important for the bank, and correct me if I'm wrong, but bad debt is just terrible for them, right? Because it affects how much they can borrow and how much they can lend. So I think that's probably where a lot of this misreporting came from because they didn't want to say they had all these bad loans.
Well, yeah, it's in case you don't know it, the banking system is a fiat currency.
Yeah.
Okay, you give the bank $1,
Mhm.
and they give you a toaster, and then they go out and lend out $15. That's
Yeah.
literally how the banking, they print the money, and they go lend it.
Yeah.
Well, what happens, David, in a non-performing note is it kind of goes backwards. So if you have $100,000 loan on a house
Yeah.
and it's not performing, the bank's got to take $1.5 million off their books that they
Yeah.
can't lend out on car loans,
Right.
home loans. And so they would much rather take, say, 50 grand for that
Mhm.
loan and then lend out 750,000.
Yeah.
And they don't want to get too many of these, non-performing notes, the quantity wise, or they get shut down. FDIC comes in and gives all their assets to another bank on Friday night, and stuff. And so, they take their toys away and they don't get to play in the sandbox anymore. And
Yeah.
so that's we talk about distressed sellers, it's distressed banks. And that's why, they'll take $29,600 for a house I sold for $275, after putting $80,000 in rehab in it. There's a distressed seller lender type situation
Gotcha.
on that and stuff, and that's what they're so well, I'll give away a secret here. Okay, so each lender, okay, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, there's like 7 different types.
Yeah.
Each one takes a certain percentage of the value of the property. So don't make this mistake. Okay, don't, if you have a bank do an appraisal, don't offer the appraisal. Okay, that's not what they want. Okay, I'll give away one here now.
Wow.
This isn't live, right? We're not doing this. Okay, so this is going to be released later, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be sitting in that chair when this is released, because I'm going to tell you something. And the government drones, okay, they're flying overhead. The drones, they're going to zap you, okay, because I'm going to release something that's not supposed to be told. Okay, so let's take FHA. FHA, they do an appraisal, but the bank will take 88% of that appraised value. Now, duck
wow.
quickly. Okay, yeah, and so each lender type has a different percentage. Okay, so you would think, well, wait a minute, why wouldn't you just take the appraisal? No, they're distressed. The banks are distressed sellers, right? And so they have a lot of other motivation and stuff like that. And everything, but yeah, and so each lender type has a different percentage, and I know what they are.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
That is good stuff. So clearly, short sales are going to come back into vogue, as they say. People are going to start paying a lot more attention. So, guys, if those of you that are watching, I think this is important. This is why we want to have David on, because we've heard rumblings of this for maybe the last year, 18 months, that that this was going to come back. And you do see some stuff about foreclosures in the news. So definitely a good strategy to learn now, to put it into your tool belt, for your investing business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole sub-2 creative financing space, short sales, just a little niche inside of the creative finance, but you don't have to do a sub-2 and take over a loan that is greater than the house. See, too many people don't have this tool in their tool belt, and they're willing to go, yeah, but my tenant's making my payment, well, for 30 years. Well, fine, that's a good idea, but why do that if the bank, that loan that I paid $29,600 on, the loan was $204,000.
Oh my God!
Which one do you want? Do you want to take over a loan for $204,000? Might sound great, but would you rather instead get a hard money loan for $29,600 and have all that equity? And so your investors better answer that question right. Otherwise, they need to rethink their creative finance strategy.
Yeah.
You don't just sub-2 it because it's a sub-2 possibility. Right?
Yeah. Well, there's that whole world out there that wants to make every single deal a sub-2.
Right.
Yeah. And that's got some problems. So cool, David. I appreciate that we've held you up here for a long time. Thank you so much for coming on. But I know people that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the very, very top of what's showing. There's so much to learn about short sales. Where is the best place for people to follow you, to find you? I know you said you do some YouTube stuff and some content.
Yeah, well, look, I do this every single month, a 2-hour Zoom introduction to short sales, because there's so many more questions that come. Every question I answered, I know created more questions for you. So for your listeners, for your group, okay, there's no charge for this at all. It's a 2-hour Zoom session. I do it once a month.
Okay.
All your people have to do is just text the word intro to my phone number at 636-685-2990, the word intro, INTRO. That will give you the Zoom link so that you can get on. I do it every single month. So whenever this comes out, this podcast has been here for a year, 6 months, 1 month. That's fine. I do it every single month. Just text intro, or you can go to my website and go there too, is another way. Actually, you're probably fancy, David. You probably can put like a link in your YouTube account or something like that.
We'll do that.
I'm not that sophisticated, but I can give you a link for it. So and it's a free workshop, and I can answer your questions, and I go through the process, and I give a market update on exactly what's happening with the banks. That's why I do that every single month. So your people are very welcome to go ahead and jump on there.
Awesome, guys. Again, I can't encourage you enough. The market is changing. There's a lot of volatility and instability out there. And I think, with the new administration, there's going to be some changes, and it's going to, what David is offering is nothing but an opportunity, to really do more deals and help more people. So David, thank you so much for coming on. I do appreciate it, man. This has been incredible and insightful. And I love it. Very educational.
Well, I appreciate what Easy REI Closings does in bringing these out to people, because you're helping people take real estate and be successful at it. So I appreciate your effort. This is a lot of effort for you, okay? And I appreciate you producing this, getting this out to the public, because it's about relationships and sharing knowledge. And I appreciate what you do.
Cool. Well, we're going to, and we're also going to talk to our coordinators as our clients pop in and have these deals where, there seems like there's no solution. We're going to make sure that we're sending them your way as well.
Yeah, we got to help the family out. Look, the worst thing that we don't want foreclosures. Everybody, including the bank, loses.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody. I don't know anybody that wins in a foreclosure. And so we don't want that to happen to families.
Awesome. Guys, thanks so much. Make sure you check out David at thedavidrandolph.com. We'll drop a link here for the YouTube presentation that he does once a month. And let's go out there and do some deals. We'll see you.